Hello, and welcome to Prairie Pulse. Coming up a little bit later in the show, we'll visit and meet with a maple syrup maker from Burgess, Minnesota. But first, joining me now is Bruce Crummy. And Bruce, you've got a new book out. You're a photographer and author, and kind of show it here. It is called Photographs, North Dakota and Region, Photographs of the People, Places, and Events that Shape This Area and Beyond. So that's what we're going to talk about some today. Bruce, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Well, I'm originally from Argyle, Minnesota, a farm near Argyle, Minnesota, up in northwestern Minnesota. For those of you who aren't familiar, it's about 30 miles north of Crookston, Minnesota on US Highway 75. Went to high school there, went to Moorhead State, now MSUM, in the 70s, and went to a job in Marshall, Minnesota as a photographer on the paper there, and went to the Forum shortly thereafter. I think it was 6 months after that job started. I became aware of an opening at the Forum and applied and got a job there, and worked there for 32 years plus.
Okay.
So.
Well, with that said, though, what got you interested in photography, and when would you say you became a photographer?
Well, I was probably in my 10 or 11 years old, or younger. I used to go visit my grandfather on his farm, and he didn't have any radio or television, but he did have National Geographic magazines, which I think was the genesis of my interest in photography, because as you know, their photography is pretty amazing. So, and it's something that I've kept an eye on over the years, of course, because there's lots of great photography in that magazine and continues to be. So I would say that was the starting point of my interest in photography.
Well, you know, Bruce, I'm flipping through, of course, it seems like a wonderful book. Talk about how this came about.
This was an idea that had been percolating in my mind for a couple of years. I was a photographer for an international news photo agency called Zuma Press when I left the Forum in 2008. And over the 3 or 4 years since I started that, I amassed a fairly good sized archive, and I wanted to do a book about the state I live in the area, actually, because the bordering Minnesota areas are also part of the book. And so about a year ago, I finally got serious about it and started making original designs for the book and checking out how much it would cost to produce it, which isn't cheap anymore, obviously, but it all came together. So,
well, you know, as I flip through, you cover a wide range of photographs, which we're going to take a look at as we're talking here. Can you talk about how the book's arranged?
Well, I wanted to show a lot of different aspects of the state. One of the things that obviously the oil patch is a big international story that has ramifications for not only us, but our dependence on foreign oil. And so I wanted to make sure that was a good part of the book. And in fact, I devoted an entire chapter to it, and early in the book. So that was the reason for that. But I kind of separated the book into chapters about, like I said, the various aspects of the state. I didn't try to key on simply Fargo-Moorhead, because I knew that would probably preclude a lot of interest in the West. So I tried to put photos from all corners of the state in there.
Well, you really did, of course, obviously with the Capitol here and the Bakken, and well, yeah, just so many great photos in
Thank
here.
you.
So talk about your career at the Forum for a few minutes here.
I was hired in 1976. I was there for 32 years and left in 2008. I had a good career at the Forum, very good organization. They treated me well. I just decided in 2008 I wanted to try the solo thing, and it's gone pretty well. It's quite a change, but it's very aesthetically interesting because you have control over what you shoot. Not that there was anything wrong with not having control over what you shoot, but yeah, I think it was a good change. So,
what were some of the interesting stories that stand out for you while you were at the Forum?
well, probably the first one that comes to mind is the Gordon Call story, the tax protester that was involved in a shootout with U.S. Marshals in the early 80s in Medina, North Dakota. Another one I would say would be the Roger Maris funeral. That was a big news story. If I thought for a while, I could probably come up with several, but those are the two that stand out the most.
Sure. You know, when you're taking a photograph and working on something, what are you trying to get when you're getting that key photograph? And I assume when you look at a book like the one we're talking about, and a news story, obviously it's a little different in how you take pictures. So can you tell us how you do that?
Well, I think it all gets down to photography at its core. And being a photojournalist or a documentary photographer, the most important thing in that situation is the moment, the decisive moment. There's my idol is Henri Cartier-Bresson. He was a French photographer back in the earlier part of the 1900s. And I think he invented the term, but the decisive moment to him was the confluence of action or emotional action that is captured on film or on digital now. But to me, that's the root of a good image. Granted, on landscape photography or scenic photography, light is more important there, but anytime it's involving people, it's a decisive moment.
I can understand that. So on some of these more landscape type, do you sit and wait for the light to come to you, or?
Well, to a certain degree, it's knowing the time of day that's good. High noon is probably the worst time to shoot photos, but a half hour before sunup and probably an hour or two after sunup are the best light times, and same at night. But yeah, the light is very important in those situations.
Yeah. What is it about people and places in North Dakota that appeals to you visually?
Well, I think anywhere you have people, there's going to be the possibility of great photos. And not just North Dakota, it could be anywhere. But I tried to show the tenor of the state, the culture of the state, just kind of what it's like to live here through the various types of photos that I shot, be it arts, sports, news. So.
One thing I noticed in your book is how diverse North Dakota is and is becoming, I guess, with people coming in from other states and even other countries. Was this something you were consciously trying to reflect in the book, or did it just happen that way?
It happened that way to a certain degree, but in my portraits chapter, I did want to reflect that because the cultural patchwork has changed dramatically in the last, I'd say, 10 or 15 years. It's probably more so in the Fargo-Moorhead area, although in the oil patch, Williston, it's changed a lot too. But that was the idea for the portraits chapter. I wanted to show how much more diverse it's become. So.
Sure. Do you have a favorite photograph in the book? That's always a tough one, I think, but we have to ask it. Yeah,
it is tough, and it's kind of like asking, well, which one of your kids is your favorite? My favorite, I think, is the University of North Dakota hockey picture of the band guy with the gopher hanging him in effigy. That really sums up the UND, University of Minnesota hockey rivalry, well, schools as well, but it's people get a kick out of that. But it's a rivalry that goes back many, many years. So.
Absolutely, it does, and I have it here. So, what's been the reaction to the book so far?
Very positive. I was at a Pride of Dakota holiday showcase this past weekend in Fargo, and I even got the question, so is there a hardcover of this book? Which was, I quickly said, yeah, I would if it wasn't so expensive. But yeah, the cost of producing books has become much more expensive, and so that's...
Well, with that said, I mean, even though self-publishing has become easier, you said there's still a cost, and I mean, obviously, with all this artwork, pictures and photographs, how difficult was it, or the part of doing it may be easier now?
Well, the numbers, the press run can be much lower these days with digital printing. With an offset press, as it's called, you know, you're looking at a 15,000 minimum print run, and that's way out of my price range. But with the digital printing, you can, you know, obviously the per unit cost would have to be necessarily high, but a person could print one at a time on demand if they wanted to. So yeah, the digital printing is made it more likely for smaller printers like myself to get into the business. So
yeah, well, you have a second book. Of course, this one is called 2009 Red River Historic Flooding. Can you talk a little bit about this one?
Yes, at the time I was covering the Red River flood for Zuma Press, and as time went on, things just got more and more serious, and it became a national story and then an international story quite quickly. So we had press from all over the world in here, and the media focused like a laser beam on this situation. And about halfway through, I started, you know, thinking to myself that, you know, if this turns out well, there could probably be a book in this, knowing full well that if it didn't turn out well, there would be no market probably. Well, as it turns out, as everybody that was involved in it or affected by it, it went pretty well for most people. So I decided to do a book on it because there was, you know, such a big story at the time, and I had it out by August that year, and had good success with it. So.
Well, sure. So yeah, but now you've got another event going on, when the Bakken. What's it like shooting out there? You know, you have tons of photos from out west.
Well, it was kind of a late addition to this new book. I remember hearing about the U.S. Geological Survey. I believe it was in April. They came out with a report that they had found 5 or twice as much oil in the Bakken as they had just were aware of just 5 years ago. So not that I wasn't going to go out there and shoot some photos, but it just made it doubly important to cover that subject matter in the book visually. So I made a couple trips out there, and to, you know, feature that in a chapter in the book.
Will you continue to go out to the Bakken area and shoot photos through it? Because obviously they say that now this is going to be going on for a while.
Yes, I will continue to go out there. No plans right now, but yes, I will be back out there. So.
What kind of advice do you have for some young, aspiring photographers?
I would say with the equipment that's available now, maybe worry less about the equipment and more about the thought behind the image, you know, what you're feeling and thinking and seeing rather than the camera itself. The gulf between consumer and professional camera gear has gotten quite a bit closer these days. So it's leveled the playing field between professionals and I suppose you could say hobbyists. I've taught photojournalism at NDSU, and I concentrated a lot more on the seeing in that class than the the toning the image. And I was pleased to see that most of the kids have a real concept of Photoshop, so they know how to do all that. There was no learning curve there really to speak of. So, and I was impressed with some of the photos that came out of that class because I concentrated on the seeing and the timing rather than.
It wasn't that many years ago that film was still being used. Don't talk about film as much anymore. What kind of equipment do you use, and how has it changed, really?
Well, I shoot a Canon digital 35 millimeter. I have one camera that's a full frame. Photographers will know what that means, and then a traditional digital camera that's maybe 3/5 of a full frame. But the point there is that digital has just leapfrogged over film and to a tremendous degree. I mean, getting results with digital cameras now that were just you would never have dreamed of with film. So it's come a long ways. So
it really has. Yeah, when you're out there shooting, and especially people, because obviously landscapes probably a little easier. Are people willing to be photographed, or do you have to kind of talk to them and make them understand what you're doing and what you're looking for?
Generally, people are very receptive in this part of the country, although there's always situations where you find yourself in that where they do not want to be photographed, and depending on the story or the issue you're working on, and if it's a public place, it's. But I try to be as non-threatening and professional always to get the image, but generally. Around this area, people are very, very nice about that. So,
I noticed, of course, you had a lot of the arts photos type in here too. What is the art scene like in North Dakota? I mean, can you speak to that?
I think it's very vibrant. I would say. I have more experience in Fargo-Moorhead, obviously, but Fargo-Moorhead has got a lot of arts, and I devoted a chapter to it in the book because I think it's something that North Dakota is very proud of, statewide even. So I think it's traveling around the state for shows in the Pride of Dakota, that a series of showcases. There is a very good appreciation for the arts, I would say. Not all vendors in that show are artists, but from my experience, people are very open to arts.
Well, what's next for you in your adventures? I understand you made a recent trip over to Europe. Anything working in there?
Yes. My wife and I went to Europe this spring. I shot lots of photos, and I've had a show at Nicole's in Fargo of those photographs, possibly a book, but I would say going forward an e-book is more likely than a regular physical book. Yeah. And that seems to be the way the profession is going.
Well, Bruce, we're running out of time, but if people want more information or would like a copy of your book, where can they go? Who can they contact?
There's a couple of places in Fargo, Hallmark store in West Acres, Zambros downtown, out in the Bakken area. The Stanley, North Dakota has the Cenex store there, and also in Tioga, North Dakota. They can get it there. And of course on my website too, you can buy it there, brucecrumeyphotography.com.
Okay. Well, Bruce, I'm sorry, we're out of time.
Okay.
And we thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Stay tuned for more. Harvesting maple syrup has a long history in Minnesota, dating back to the 1500s when Native Americans transformed sap into maple sugar. Today, Jerry Jacobson of Vergus has perfected his method of making maple syrup by realizing that winter weather conditions have a direct effect on his harvest in the spring.
My name is Jerry Jacobson. We're in Vergus, Minnesota. Jake Syrups and Natural Products is the name of our company. So did you get which ones here?
I didn't know. I didn't.
Well, I actually retired in '94.
You want to get the ones closer.
You know, I thought, well, okay, now what am I going to do? You know, do I want to just hunt and fish? Do I just want to watch TV? Or do I want to have a hobby that gets me outside? We thought, well, maple syrup would be a good thing to do. So we started out with a couple hundred trees. A lot of people like the syrup, and so next year we did 300 trees, and now we're up to about 2,000. Not much in that one. Generally, our season starts about March 9th. And it takes us about 2 weeks to tap the 2,000 maples that we are getting sap from. Really full. And each tap that you put in a tree generally will give you 10 to 12 gallons of maple sap. It takes 40 gallons of maple sap to make 1 gallon of maple syrup. Of course, maple syrup only runs in the spring when the temperatures are above freezing and you have freezing nights. So you have a very small window of opportunity to get the maple sap from the trees. It's about 3 weeks in Minnesota. Out east, they have 5 or 6 week seasons. Pure maple syrup is only made in North America. And there are only 19 states in the United States and 4 Canadian provinces that make maple syrup. And Minnesota is the furthest west state to produce maple syrup commercially. The people that first started making maple syrup in North America were the Native Americans. They didn't make syrup, they made maple candy or sugar because it was easier to carry around. When the Europeans came, they learned how to make maple syrup from the Indians. Well, the Europeans came with their metal pots, and they could boil the sap in metal pots. What did the Native Americans use? They didn't have metal pots. What they did is they would take hollowed out logs and they would take stones and heat them in a fire. And when the stones were hot, they'd take it and they'd put it in the maple sap. And it would heat up the sap and cause evaporation. They'd take the stones out and heat them again. And of course, after they were introduced to the metal pots and stuff, then of course, they would use them too. Before we had a reverse osmosis system, we had to boil every bit of maple sap to get a gallon of syrup. And as I'd mentioned before, it takes, on average, 40 gallons of maple sap to make 1 gallon of syrup. The reverse osmosis will take out about 75% of the water from the maple sap before it hits the evaporator. So when it hits the evaporator, instead of 40 gallons, now all it takes is about 10 gallons of concentrate coming in to make a gallon of syrup. To me, it's kind of nice just to think about the fact that you're not going to have to spend all day boiling. Once we have time to actually bottle, we have to take it all in here and finish it. Now, syrup coming off the evaporator has a lot of, they call it niter or sugar sand in it. It's very thick mineral deposits that stays with all the syrup. So you have to get that off the syrup in order to bottle it, so that you know, when you display your bottle, it's nice and clear. So what we do is we take all that syrup that we've made off the evaporator, we put it in this pan, and we have to heat it up to 211 degrees. If it's too thick, then we have to add a little distilled water to it. If it's too thin, we have to boil it a little bit longer. Then, once we're sure that we have the right density on our syrup, we run it through a filter press. In order to get the syrup through this particular material, you have to add diatomaceous earth to the syrup. It's crushed ancient sea creatures. It's shells. It coats the paper so that the molecules of the maple syrup will pass through them. It's kind of like water on gravel. When you bottle, the minimum temperature in order to kill any bacteria in your bottle and to seal it is 180 degrees. So generally, if we bottle it at 200 or so, it's probably 190 when we actually cap it. So we're going to get a good seal, and you know, there won't be a problem with spoilage. So it takes us about 4 days of bottling to complete 400 gallons of syrup. This is considered grade A dark syrup. I can show you contrast of what that looks like compared to something that's either a light or a medium syrup. And we sell a lot of different containers, fancy bottles, different shaped bottles. We do it in glass and plastic, so. Nothing like pure maple syrup. You know, if you've never had it, it's a real treat.
Well, that's all we have on Prairie Pulse for this week. And as always, thanks for watching.
Funding for Minnesota Legacy programs are provided by a grant from the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund, with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4th, 2008, and by the members of Prairie Public.